it is hard to produce a show. The expenses are extremely high. They've been high for a long time. And basically, the misconception is that if you're talented, you'll make it. Now, I know a lot of actors understand that that's not completely true many times, but there are very talented people, and talent also is in the eye of the beholder. I could say someone's talented and you could think they're terrible. And we'd both be valid because it's an art form. It's not like, oh, this person has batting average of whatever, or they've hit this many home runs. It's not math. It's an opinion.
Welcome to the Imperfectly Empowered podcast with DIY healthy lifestyle blogger, Ahna Fulmer. Empowering you to transform your life, one imperfect day at a time.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Imperfectly Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Ahna Fulmer. Today we have Jordan Scott Gilbert on the show. Jordan was the first ever recipient of the Broadway Producer of the Year Award, nominated for 3 Tonys, and one of the youngest award-winning Broadway producers. Jordan is also the founder of Good News Theatrics, a performing arts company dedicated to producing first-class, redemption-centered plays and musicals aimed for Broadway, off-Broadway, tour, and film. Here to share his expertise on how to level up your singing and acting for a career on stage, welcome award-winning Broadway producer and performer, Jordan Scott Gilbert. There we go. I was just, for those of you listening and watching here, this is the Jordan Scott Gilbert. We were just chatting offline about how one time I forgot to press record because I got so busy chatting with the guest as soon as they came on, and we got the entire way through the recording. Yeah. Without recording. Whoops.
Right.
So here is the Jordan Scott Gilbert. I already introduced you. We were chatting a little bit about all of your credentials here and your awards. You have such a fun backstory, which is one of my favorite things to share on the podcast. You have multiple credentials. I mean, not only are you an award-winning producer and performer, but you are also an acting and singing coach, which we're going to talk about later. I want to hone in on your advice there for people listening, especially I think for those of you guys listening, if you have kids like I do, or you yourself are maybe wanting to pursue or are interested in a career on stage, keep in mind that this might also be a great interview to listen to for the sake of your kids or your teenagers or your whoever you know who's interested in leveling up their singing and acting. Save this, share this, and you are definitely going to want to contact Jordan. So let's do a little rewind and tell me about how you got to where you are today. You're a 3-time Tony Award nominated Broadway producer. We could just start there. There's a lot of things we could start with.
Well, my show is nominated for 3 Tony Awards. I should have got a Tony Award twice, but that's a whole other story. Personally.
And he's not bitter about it at all.
Yeah, no. Well, not anymore. When I was 3 years old, my parents took me to see a show called Les Mis, which is pretty well known. And then, long story short, I did a bunch of shows and entertainment growing up, a lot of youth theater, some more professional stuff like off Broadway, and some press stuff like for the Broadway tour of Les Mis when I was 6 years old. And I was known as the Miz Kid. So, because I knew Les Mis so well and loved it. And so that was the biggest inspiration for me. When I was of college age, I started casting, and I cast some independent films and TV pilots, stuff like that. And that's where I had a chance to direct performers and coach them without being an official coach. And I think after that, I went into producing. But from the casting days and or directing, that's really what got me in the, I don't want to say in the door. It sounds like, I won American Idol or something, but that's what really started me on that path to coaching actors. And I realized I was good as a director. All I wanted to do growing up was be a Broadway star and rich and famous. In fact, just a quick sidetrack.
Please, we love sidetracks here.
Ask me why I wanted to get into this business.
Why, Jordan, did you want to get into this business?
Well, I love being rich and famous. I love everybody telling me how what a wonderful performer I am.
Yeah.
And wherever I go, love when people know who I am. They give me free stuff. I could basically do whatever I want, whenever I want. All the women throw themselves at me. But more than anything, really, I love telling the story. I love telling stories because I'm 5. No, just kidding.
That's so funny.
That's it. Just a
But
thing.
it's so true,
why did I
though.
get-
It's like that is. I mean, to your point, though, we're laughing, but the reality is so many people get into it with that mindset.
Right.
You know, that is like the end all be all.
Yeah. And I did love this as an art form when I was 3 years old. When I saw that show, I mean, it just changed my 3-year-old life. And from then on, I was obsessed, probably unhealthily, but it was kind of a gateway drug to other musicals after Les Mis.
Yeah.
So the art form was my childlike passion for it, but then it became something that was more it was still about it was still about that underneath, but it became about wanting to become, famous and wanting just kind of all these awful lusts of the flesh, as the Bible called them, lust of the eyes, pride of life. And when I got saved and I became a Christian in 2013, I realized I didn't know a whole lot, and I'm still learning, but I realized that was a facade, that there's artistic merit. People do a, good job artistically with things, but as far as giving your life for it and making it your golden calf, that's something that God had to break with me. So I could probably go on for hours with that, but that's the long story short. But I've still been coaching actors and wanting to do Christian theater, and that Good News Theatrics has been open and closed. And I'm trying to really see where God is still leading me. So with all of that, but anyway, that's just sort of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that whole concept of, the idea too, like when you get that small taste of success, and this isn't even necessarily just in the entertainment industry, but in life, it's so easy to make that end goal, a monetary goal, or, in the entrepreneur world, I see this all the time. Cars, for whatever reason, I'm not a car person, so this means nothing to me. But for a lot of people, it's like they grew up with very little, or they had these dreams that started to grow as they became more successful. And a certain type of car, it's like the day that they could buy that car and drive off the lot in that car, it's like they've made it. And it's just sort of like these goals that at the end of the day, not that goals are bad, but you do have to kind of step back and say, okay, but where's my worth? Where is my value if all this was taken away? Right. Who am I? And what is my definition? Truly, I just think it's a lot more prominent when your job is quite literally in a spotlight. It's easier to have that when you are talking stage. And I did not mention this earlier. I should mention this earlier on. Jordan directed the musical that Graceland was in last year, her very first musical ever. She had such an amazing experience, and Jordan had a lot to do with that.
I have a lot of students, and I would say probably half of my students are 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that age range. And then the other half are adults. One of the things I like to do with students the first time who are just getting into the industry, and, if they're 10 years old, it's going to be really for the parents. Or if they're 16 or 17 or thinking about college, then it's for both of them. But I like to do a career coaching masterclass, which is just a 1-hour masterclass of how the business works. And I teach you straightforward what you need, all the materials you need, how to do it, how it works. Because there's a lot of misconceptions about how the industry works. It's very highly monopolized. And almost everyone fails, regardless of whether they're prideful or not, or they love being seen. That's another story, and that's another sermon. But it's, I think, only like 2% or something like that. I don't know the exact statistic. I could look it up. But of union actors are working or making a living at it, really. So it's a very difficult industry, regardless of anything else.
Here's the reality. I think this is a concept that's applicable to any industry. I mean, when I went to nursing school, I had no concept of how the business of nursing worked. I knew how to take care of a patient, but I had no concept of the business side of it and the chains of command and who's actually hiring you and who's actually running the show. And you could do everything right. And at the end of the day, still get kicked off the job. I mean, that is a reality. And so what I appreciate about what you're saying is I think regardless of how quote unquote messy any industry is, there is value in making sure that you are approaching it not only with excellence, but also with an understanding of some of the decisions that you have to make and being equipped to make those decisions in a way that is honoring your own sense of, justice or what's going to ultimately be satisfying in life and who you're wanting to honor. So I think that is an excellent way to start before you even dive into the skill set. What would you say, getting onto the business side of it, what is one of the number one misconceptions that people have about the entertainment industry? Like if somebody's going into it from a practical standpoint, what is something that more people should be aware of?
Nobody cares what's on your resume, in my opinion. Now they say, we care. No one cares what's on your resume. Unless you have a Broadway credit, unless you're starring or co-starring or supporting in a film, a movie that's made by one of the big 6 or so companies, or that's playing on at AMC or Regal, or you're on a TV show, not as an extra, but you actually have a role on a TV show and you could turn on the TV and I could see you on the TV. Yeah, of course, they might think, casting directors might care about that. But now, in my opinion, besides just obvious star power, like give me Tom Hanks, give me Brad Pitt, give me whoever, it's about how many Instagram followers and Twitter followers, social media followers, TikTok, whatever.
Isn't that wild? That's crazy. I literally said that the other day, and I am certainly not an entertainment expert, but I had the thought the other day, like, so I'm in my 30s and I have no idea how old you are, but for me, I lived in that weird, like halfway mark where it's like growing up, we didn't have social media, but I'm still relatively young. And so I started with social media sort of in that crucial, like college age realm. And so I think of these actors and actresses in the entertainment industry who had to make that shift. And it's like now, unless you had that star power, it's like you have to prove that you're bringing an audience with you into a role. Right. It's like selling your audience even less than you're selling yourself. That has to be a frustrating reality. That's tough.
And people think that some people think this is a new thing, but really it's always been that way. It's always been show business. It's a business. So before social media, it was, how many tickets are you selling at the box office? And in some respects it is. I mean, if you want Denzel Washington in your show, there's a reason and you pay him a lot of money for it. So it's always been that way. It's just that because the world is online, casting directors look to social media because people want to sell tickets, and it is hard to produce a show. The expenses are extremely high. They've been high for, a long time, but they're extremely, extremely high. And basically the misconception is that if you're talented, you'll make it. Now, I know a lot of actors understand that that's not completely true many times, but there are very talented people, and talent also is in the eye of the beholder. I could say someone's talented and you could think they're terrible, and we'd both be valid because it's an art form. It's not like, oh, this person has batting average of whatever, or, they've hit this many home runs. It's not math. It's an opinion, right? It's in the eye. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So the misconception is, oh, you're so talented, you're going to make it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Yeah. And most times, no. Just almost no one makes it. And I don't try to make up acting exercises also, like fluff, like, oh, pretend you're a peanut butter jelly sandwich trying to crawl your way out of a piggy bank, or some stupid acting exercises I did in college and wasted all my money. But anyway, that's besides the point. I tell it like it is.
I'm like, where'd you go to college? You were crawling out of things as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Wow.
That's the type of stuff they teach, not just college, but acting school. I'm not saying, oh, I know everything, or I just try to teach what I think is effective and straight to the point. But a lot of acting exercise, and even.
How do you tap into the intention as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? I'm just still stuck on that.
Very carefully.
Very, very carefully. I'm sticky.
Right.
I'm not even sure where to go with that intention. Anyway,
Yes. On a bad day, you're the
I
mold on the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, so you have to internalize that.
yeah, hopefully it's gluten-free. If you have a gluten-free allergy, there's so many ways we could go with that. Anyway, well, we certainly want coaches that are going to tell us the truth. So that is a very important element. We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, stay tuned. We're going to play a speed round of this or that with Jordan, get to know him a little bit better, and we are going to tap into his expert advice on his top tips on how to level up your singing and acting for a career on stage right when we come back from this break.
You have tried it all. Worried you will never lose the extra weight or reclaim the energy you once enjoyed? Want to achieve fat loss without spending hours in a gym or eliminating entire food groups from your diet? Well, now you can. In the virtual Faster Way to Fat Loss with Ahna, my 6-week fitness and nutrition program, you will learn how to pair effective 30-minute workouts with all-natural, evidence-based nutritional strategies to leverage what you eat and when you eat to reset your metabolism and burn fat fast, even that stubborn belly fat. I am a dual certified nurse practitioner passionate about teaching sustainable strategies to promote fat loss and prevent disease. I have cheered on thousands of clients who have done just that with the Faster Way program. In my 6-week program, the average client currently sheds 7 inches of body fat. 93% report more energy and 89% state that their mental health has improved. 100% of clients report they feel this program is sustainable. Curious to try the program but not sure if the strategies will work for you? Try the Faster Way strategies for free. Head to www.hammersandhugs.com and sign up for my free 7-day fat loss accelerator course today and start your own transformation story.
All right, we are back here with Jordan. Okay, Jordan, 2 options, no stress, this or that. Would you rather your own private jet or a personal yacht? These are very important questions.
I guess it depends what I was using it for. I wouldn't pick a private jet just because of my concern about flying on a private jet. So I guess I would pick a yacht, sell it, and then produce my musical, The Titanic Hero, a nice segue, which is about a pastor who died preaching the gospel on the Titanic, and try to bring that to Broadway and with some upfront money from selling the yacht. Or maybe I'd buy the jet.
That's hilarious.
That's worth more. I'd buy the jet.
He's a business strategist. Here we go.
Sell it to Tom Cruise.
Here, Tom, you can have my private jet. Okay. Would you rather be in a play or a musical? Like perform in a play or a musical?
Musical by far.
Yeah. Would you rather direct a film or a musical?
Musical. I'm directing a movie right now, actually, but it'll be fun. But musical is where my heart is.
Yeah. And would you rather live in the city or the countryside?
Oh, countryside. If you would have asked me that 10 years ago, it definitely would have been the city.
Yeah, it's funny. I hear that a lot. If you could live anywhere in the world, like ignoring all of the logistics that come with it, just would be like your favorite place to live, where would you live?
Oh man, probably on a beach if I had just my own personal
with his personal yacht that he sold.
With my yacht or a jet plane. So
or his jet plane.
I'd probably live anywhere. I love Key West. I love the Florida Keys. California, the Malibu, that area is nice. I'm not a huge fan of all the political stuff in California, but it's a very pretty state. Probably some tropical place. Yeah, but I feel like I'd get sick of it though. Because
I know that's what I always say. I know my husband says the same thing, but I'm like, I love the beach so much because it's not all the time. So I'm
right. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with that.
You have to have moderation.
Yeah, that's right. So let's dive into your expertise here, because obviously if somebody's listening, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, so we're interested in the possible coaching element, but let's just talk some initial top level tips for somebody who's wanting to improve. Maybe they're just singing on their worship team at church. Maybe they do some sets, in a small little club on the weekends, but they work full time in a hospital. Like, regardless of who they are, You've received a recognition from Carnegie Hall for your expertise in teaching voice, also acting, audition, career coach, etc. So let's just tap in a little bit to that, regardless of who you are, and you just want to level up a little bit. Tell me the ones that come to mind. I did not prepare him for this, you guys, by the way. So this is going to be off the cuff for him. So maybe 2 of your top singing tips, and they can be just touched on briefly. 2 of your top acting tips, 2 of your top audition tips.
Sure. So 2 of my top singing tips is number 1, open your mouth. A lot of people sing.
How many fingers length? This is what I always remember.
1 finger on the chin and just, let gravity do the work. And I know I'm kind of glitching in and out. I'm not really in an office. I like to tell stories, and I like to have pretend I'm in a boring board
office suite.
Office suite. Right. So anyway, but seeing, open the mouth, because almost everybody I see, even if they're fantastic singers, don't open their mouth. It's literally that simple. So what I tell people is between your mouth closed, you could even have all the other technique down, but between your mouth closed, your mouth grossly open to where it's becoming detached, somewhere in the middle of that is going to, sound, you're going to sound great. Now, usually it's just, it's just mouth drop, in my opinion, across genres, but, and that's also very important in the higher registers. So this is the second tip for singers, is to open your mouth and raise your soft palate in the back, depending upon what kind of genre you're singing, in my opinion. But you raise it a little bit if it's more pop or rock, and then you raise it a lot if it's more opera sounding or more operatic or more classical. So you want to give it that space so that your voice doesn't, crunch. So those are my two top
one of the challenges in singing that is really hard is when you want to have that clearer, almost like resonant sound that is a little bit more nasally because it's just a little bit clearer, but you still need to have the resonance of an open sound.
Yeah.
How do you find that balance between making it clearer? Maybe you're in head voice still, but you want a little bit more of that clearer sound. Like, do you have tips for like just playing with how to get the sound at different places? Like, it could just be you're holding out if you guys have never done this, you should try it. But like, you hold out one consonant, one vowel, and then you try to place the sound in different spots in your head. Do you have any like thoughts or techniques on how to help improve that sound?
Yeah, well, we do a little bit of face work to try to find which placement, is right. So each song is different. And some people will only work classical, and they have their techniques and their methods and their complex words and terms that they apply to everything. And I'm not trying to invalidate that. But I come from more of a musical theater place, and which is kind of just a large range of a lot of different stuff, depending upon what show you're doing. But anyway, so we try to do a little face work and try to find the right placement for the voice. So if you're seeing something that's more pop, you might want to place it a little lower. If you're seeing something that's more classical, you want to place it a little higher. And then we kind of play with in between and try to find a natural placement, quote unquote, for stuff that you don't really want to manipulate your voice too much with. And we just try to find the best sound. Everybody's face shape is different. Everybody's vocal cords are different. Everybody's throat is different. Everybody has different things that they're either dealing with. If they're dealing with something like throat inflammation, postnasal drip, acid reflux. I try to make it specific. I'm not a doctor, but I just try to say, in my opinion, what I see, and we try to zone in on the issues and try to fix that.
I think it's an interesting point that everyone's face shape is different. I mean, that certainly makes sense. And when you consider just like the shape of a room is going to change the sound or the tone, the same would be true for somebody's face. So maybe one person does need to drop more or change the tone. I think that's a really interesting point that I've never thought about. So
it gets very specific.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. I would have never, and vocal cords, maybe some are tighter than others. I don't know. I'm making that up, but
No. I mean, it's true. If you hold a lot of tension, so there's a lot of different things to address. And so I like to look at someone and then try to, like I said, zone in, see what they need to work on. And there's a lot of commonalities between technique because there's only so many ways to skin a cat, so to speak. However, it is individual and personalized, as is acting. Segue.
Yeah.
They'll come in and they'll say, I'm making it short and simple, but they'll say, oh, this character is sad, so I'll be sad. Now, maybe they're not literally saying that all the time. Some people do, but they'll just kind of like generalize the character and just go for it. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's great. A lot of times it sucks. And so what you want to do is you want to figure out what the character is thinking realistically and try to develop that as a foundation. So that's what I do. The second tip is to find out the character's emotion, quite simply. So it's a very simple foundation. You have what the character is saying, you have what the character is thinking, and you have what the character is feeling. And so it's line, intention, emotion. And what does that spell? Lie. What do actors do? They lie. No, just kidding. No, but that's a good way
I hear you though. Yeah.
Line, intention, emotion. So intention and emotion would be the two things to make a three-dimensional character, at least the foundation of it. Those would be the two quick tips for a cold read to incorporate that. So
I love that. Well, that also segues beautifully into audition tips. So you've just gotten this advice on line, intention, emotion to quickly portray a three-dimensional character. So how then do you recommend your top 2 audition tips?
It would be to be happy in the room because no one likes someone who's angry or sad or whatever.
You don't really want to cast somebody that looks miserable.
Right, exactly.
Or doesn't look like they're going to enjoy it. Yeah.
And the second big audition tip, and man, I have a third one. Can I say a third one too?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So the second big audition tip would be to act like you already have the job. Not literally like say, I already have the job, obviously.
Yeah.
I hope obviously. But to go in there like you're going to a rehearsal and you're going to a one-on-one with an accompanist or something. And
you're ready to work with these people that you're in front of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the third tip would be to make sure your bookend, whether you're singing a song or doing sides, is very strong. What I mean by that is you have to make sure your beginning is strong and you have to make sure your end is strong because that is usually what people, now, of course, this is all a generalization. Okay.
Sure.
But
I see what you're saying. Make a good impression, leave with a good impression.
Exactly. So literally your first note or your first couple notes, if you're singing a 16-bar cut or 32-bar cut or whatever, or song, and then your last few notes are, in my opinion, the most important. And also when I teach acting and singing goes hand in hand with acting, is that you have to, your most important thing to start with is knowing what your intention is and everything else for that first line, because that is the snowball effect that's going to guide you telling the story and making it truly effective. And so
I think that's a great tip. That makes a lot of sense because especially if you're sitting and looking at multiple people coming through, it's that very first emotion that you feel when you hear something come out of their mouth that you're probably going to remember. So start strong, end strong. Yeah. You heard it right here, people. I love it. So where can people find you? Where can they learn more if they want to get coaching or understand a little bit more about what it looks like to work with you? Where can they find you?
Sure. Well, you can go to Casting Acting Auditions, that's plural.com, castingactingauditions.com. It's the same website as jordanscottgilbert.com, which is my full name. Or you can call for lessons. You can call the phone number 212-222-0200. And I'll to plug it again. That's 212-222-0200. Yes.
You can tell he's done some voiceover work. Yeah. We will, of course, as always, have all of that information on the show notes, you guys. You can click to find all of that and check out Jordan. And I'm assuming I should plug this in here. I mean, you do virtual. I'm assuming you do plenty of virtual coaching. I should make that. I would think now that's obvious, but I shouldn't assume that. Yeah,
I do 100% online. It's been that way for me.
There you go, guys. So this is wherever you are, you can check out jordanscottgilbert.com. Well, again, it was such an honor to have you directing Graceland for her first musical. She just loved it. It was a wonderful experience. And I pray God's richest blessing over your heart, your home, everything that you're doing. And it was an honor to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an honor to be speaking with you. And thank you so much.
Hey guys, Ahna here. If you found this video helpful, then you do not want to miss this video right here beside me on the screen. Click on it. I know you're going to enjoy it. You guys remember, you cannot be redefined, only redeveloped, one imperfect day at a time. Your story matters, and you are loved.